If you think that you're late to Bitcoin, consider this. Only a tiny percentage of the world's population, only 4% currently own Bitcoin, according to River's report on Bitcoin adoption. It's like walking into a 400-seat movie theater and seeing only 10 people there. That's Bitcoin right now. The party's just getting started and most of the seats are still empty. So grab a seat fast. And tell me in the comments, guys, where in your Bitcoin journey are you right now? Just started looking into Bitcoin this morning, just started buying Bitcoin this year, started Bitcoin 2 to 3 years ago, or started Bitcoin around 5 years ago. Congratulations in that case. Regardless of which option you chose, you probably still feel that you're already late to the game and wished you had bought earlier. That's how I feel. And that's fine, as long as you don't make this mistake that many people make, thinking that since it's too late, it's not really worth buying Bitcoin anymore, so I'll just leave it. And these are two common objections I often hear. 1, the price is already way too high. Or 2, I don't have much money to invest, so what difference does buying a tiny fraction of Bitcoin even make? If you've ever had these doubts or know someone who has, let's break them down one by one. But note guys, this is financial entertainment, not financial advice, so always do your research before investing any of your money. Let's tackle objection number 1 first. The price is too high. Bitcoin's price has been oscillating around 110,000 to 115,000 US dollars lately, and whatever the most recent price is when this video comes out, it probably sounds insanely high. After all, $100,000 for a single unit of anything seems expensive at first glance, but here's the thing. Price alone doesn't determine whether something is expensive. Would you say that a house that costs $100,000 is expensive? You can't tell based on the price alone. It depends on where it's located, the size of the house, the neighborhood, and the future potential of the area. A $100,000 decaying house in a small declining town with little demand and low growth potential is expensive, while a $100,000 renovated house in the capital of nearly any country is cheap, if that existed. Point is that price alone doesn't tell the full story, so it's important not to get hung up on the price. Whether something is truly expensive depends on its value and future potential. Bitcoin is valuable because it's the only asset that is truly scarce. Only 21 million will ever exist, and it is secure and decentralized. If you want to understand better why Bitcoin is the best long-term asset to invest in, then join me in this video later. Unlike our dollars, yens, or euros, Bitcoin is not controlled by any central bank. And with more individuals and institutions adopting it every day, Bitcoin also has a massive future potential. Many investors believe one coin could reach 1 million within the next decade, and Michael Saylor predicts it could even hit $13 to $49 million by 2045. Suddenly, 115,000 today doesn't look as high. It's less than 1% of that potential future value. Even buying a tiny fraction now could grow into something meaningful later. So while the price might seem sky high today, in terms of value and long-term potential, Bitcoin isn't expensive. In fact, you could argue it's still very cheap. The other common objection is this. Okay, Bitcoin is not expensive, I get it. But either way, I don't have money, so it's not worth bothering. And of course, I get it. When you're struggling to make ends meet and living paycheck to paycheck, buying Bitcoin may be the last thing on your mind. Because no matter how valuable it is or how much it could grow, the reality is if there's no extra money, there's nothing to invest. But this mindset can keep someone from getting ahead. Honestly, it makes me sad that a lack of perspective can prevent people from seizing one of the really the biggest opportunities out there in this decade. So I hope that anyone thinking this way watches this and reconsiders. Here's the deal. You don't need to buy one whole Bitcoin. Rather, think in terms of Satoshis. Remember, one Bitcoin is 100 million Satoshis, and one day those Satoshis will be worth a ton. So you don't even need to have one Bitcoin, at least not right away. You'll get there eventually. Even by owning just fractions of a Bitcoin, Satoshis, you'll be ahead of the curve. Remember this, even small amounts add up over time. For example, even if today you start out with 0 but invested just $250 per month in Bitcoin starting today, and you increased your investment amount by just 10% each year, then over 20 years at a conservative 20% annual growth rate, you would end up with over $1 million in fiat currency. Compare that to investing the same $250 per month into the S&P 500 with the same 10% yearly increases, or even worse, just putting it into a checking account. And for the S&P 500, assuming a generous 10% average annual growth rate over 20 years, that would grow to roughly 380,000, which is less than half. And then here's what people who feel like they can't afford to buy Bitcoin or Satoshis really need to consider. The people who feel like they cannot afford to invest are often the ones who need it the most. If you hope to retire one day or catch up financially, you have to consider putting money into assets that have the potential for the highest long-term growth. No matter how tight your budget, there are always ways to carve out a bit of money here and there, be that through starting a side hustle or downsizing, temporarily at least. And again, guys, this isn't financial advice, just what I would do and what I have done. Living rather frugally for several years has enabled me to keep investing in Bitcoin. In summary, you're not late. You're later to the game, as I like to say, because late means that it's over and there's no more hope, while later means that your timing is just not as advantageous as it could have been, but you can still reap a lot of benefits if you hop on the train now. So hashtag we are not late, if you will. The best proof that you're not late, but rather early in 2025, 2026 even, is that only very few people on this large planet own Bitcoin. And this works to your advantage. I believe that if you start, continue, or double down on buying Bitcoin in these rather early phases, you will see your investments grow a lot in the long run. But important, guys, only invest money into Bitcoin that you can afford to lock away for the medium to long term. That's at least 5 years. As you may know, Bitcoin will go strong in the long run. I believe that, but it is extremely volatile in the short term. And you don't want to be in a position where you're short on cash and are forced to sell your precious Satoshis while the market is down. And just in case you're new to all of this and are wondering how to actually buy Bitcoin, there are many ways to do that. But in essence, you have the choice of buying Bitcoin via exchanges or best directly into your cold wallet. The cold wallet I've been using and love for its top-notch security features and ease of use is the Blockstream Jade. The ideal way is to generate a wallet on a cold wallet like this one and then buy Bitcoin directly into the cold wallet. And in Canada, you can do this through platforms like Beaver Bitcoin. You simply interact money to them and they send Bitcoin directly to your cold wallet. And I'm sure there are other options for those of you outside of Canada, but very important, guys, in case this sounds complicated to you, don't let this discourage you from buying Bitcoin. Although I think that the best solution is to buy and store Bitcoin on cold wallet, the second best solution is to buy Bitcoin anyways, even on exchanges. When I first started buying Bitcoin and didn't understand it that well, I bought Bitcoin on exchanges like NDAX all the time. In Canada, NDAX has the lowest trading fees in the market of only 0.2%. If you want to do that, you can even earn a $10 bonus if you use my affiliate link in the descriptions down below. Note that I may earn a small commission if you sign up. So only after I went through this phase of buying Bitcoin on exchanges like NDAX and so on and getting comfortable with buying Bitcoin, only then I started learning how to use cold wallets and gradually transition to them. But if you're tech savvy and comfortable with using cold wallet right away, then go ahead, all power to you. Guys, we are all still early to the Bitcoin game. So far, only 4% of people in the world actually hold Bitcoin. In the United States, that number is 14%. Still relatively low. In North America overall, that's almost 11%, which means that probably around 7% Canadians or so hold Bitcoin. In South America, that's 6.6%, in Africa, just 1.6%, Australia and surroundings, 3.3%, Asia, 3.6%, and Europe also just 3.4%. According to an estimation, only 106 million people globally own Bitcoin, while there are about 200 million Bitcoin wallets. This is because one person can own multiple Bitcoin wallets, and that's really not a lot. Consider that even in 2019, there were already 3.8 billion email accounts. But don't worry, guys, I'm very sure we'll eventually get to a similar level of adoption with Bitcoin. Most technologies that everyone uses nowadays, including electricity, cars, computers, took a while to become mainstream. Even cell phones. Can you believe that? Cell phones, like many technologies, initially saw slow adoption before rapidly accelerating and becoming mainstream. Bitcoin's growth in addresses, as we can see here, mirrors this pattern, similar to how mobile phone adoption expanded over time. If Bitcoin's adoption continues like in the case of other technologies, then at some point in the next decades, we'll see almost everyone owning Bitcoin. And imagine what happens if more people around the world want Bitcoin and start buying Bitcoin. Considering there's a limited supply of Bitcoin and no more than 21 million can ever be mined, ceteris paribus or all other things being equal, the price will continue to rise. Also consider that the money invested into Bitcoin is just a drop in the ocean, only about 0.2% of global wealth, meaning that there's massive room for growth. The total global wealth is $900 trillion. And imagine what happens if Bitcoin captures even just a small share of that. And what will drive Bitcoin's price up even further, and already has, is that it's not just individuals like you and me buying Bitcoin. Lately, it's been institutions and even countries that increasingly buy Bitcoin, and they are not stopping. By the end of 2024, US Bitcoin ETFs held about 100 billion worth of Bitcoin, with institutions, so companies, organizations, not individuals, holding about 40 billion of that. This huge inflow into Bitcoin helped push prices up throughout the year. Even public companies holding Bitcoin has increased by 80% in 2024. And this is huge. If even they start putting money into Bitcoin, then this must mean something. On top of this, consider that Americans can now buy cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, in their 401ks. I really wish this was possible in Canada too. Right now, you can only buy Bitcoin ETFs in Canadian retirement accounts, unfortunately. Last but not least, even countries are buying Bitcoin now. Based on the River report, 18 nation-states own Bitcoin, as they, at least the really smart ones, understand the long-term value of Bitcoin. So yes, Bitcoin is not really mainstream yet, but it's also not this fringe thing no one knows or cares about. It's quietly being adopted by individuals, institutions, and governments worldwide. And yes, Bitcoin adoption is still in its early stages, with River estimating it at roughly 3% of its full potential, but it's accelerating fast. And you want to make sure that you're on the train when it goes to the moon. This all being said, what do you think? Do you still believe you're late to Bitcoin? Or are you one of the early adopters who sees that we're still in the opening chapters, ready to ride the Bitcoin wave before the rest of the world catches on? Let me know in the comments down below what you think. I'd really love to hear from you. And lastly, guys, remember this. Buying one Bitcoin sounds big until you realize it's just a stack of Satoshis. One Bitcoin equals 100 million Satoshis, and for the price of one coffee, you can stack thousands of Satoshis every day until one day you own the whole coin. Happy stacking!